I'm Abhishek Agarwal. I often go by Aggy in a lot of circles. I run Appreciate Capital along with Sairi, and we basically invest early stage startups, so pre-seed, seed. We invest in world positive and gender smart companies.
Hi, I'm Pankaj Jain. I'm the managing partner at Saka Ventures. I'm based in New York, and we invest in startups from India at pre-seed and seed building for the world. So I think there's two markets over the next 20 years that are really going to matter. One is the US, and two is India. India is the fastest growing market, large market in the world. You have 1.5 billion people, English speaking, educated, and the way that the market is growing, you have a lot of services-based talent and intellectual capital here in this country, and it would be silly not to invest in this country.
Yeah, I think really echo with a lot of what Pankaj said. What took me to Germany was my wife's career, and when we were moving there, I was also very clear we're building Appreciate Capital, and I think India is unignorable. Like it's a no-brainer in my mind to be investing into India. India is a population that is rife. It's very rich, right? So there's a 1.5 billion population. There's a lot of people earning a lot more money. People are going up the income ladder. They're spending a lot more money. So a lot of demographic changes happening. It's pretty much the youngest nation in the world, right? At that scale. And I think also India as a unit itself is really evolving on how we think, how we operate, how we buy, how we sell, and all of that. And the size of ambition now in India is immediately global, right? When people want to build business in India, they're thinking very large from the outset. And all of that put together, in my mind, means that there is no better market for me to be investing in. Obviously, I have contacts built in India over decades, right? So it's a lot easier. But even then, if I was to think of, is there a different market I would want to operate in? Not really, right? Because I think very safely for the next few decades, India is going to be the highest alpha market by a long shot, in my opinion.
So, I moved to India in 2007 as a founder, started a company over here. It was very difficult to convince people to even work for a startup. People didn't know what a startup was. There was no risk capital at that time. If we look at where things are today, you can't throw a rock without hitting somebody who is either a founder or is working towards starting a company. There are, I don't know how many hundreds of active angel investors that are actively writing checks into companies that may or may not go anywhere, but they're okay with that. It's pure risk capital. There's tons of international investors that are coming in at all stages. So the ecosystem is a mature ecosystem today. It's not a developing ecosystem. It is filled with founders who really know how to build product for global markets. Indians demand the highest quality of product today as well. You have the capital that is coming from all corners of the world to support that growth, both domestically and internationally. So, I think for a founder, there's no better time to start a company. You look at a place like Bangalore, there are events happening every single day where you're going to meet other angel investors and founders, VCs, maybe not, I don't know, but you're going to meet plenty of people that can really support you in building that first stage of your company. Whereas 15 years ago, 18 years ago, it was a totally different story. There was nobody around. And it took a lot of effort to kind of put that community together. And, fortunately, I happened to be here at that time. And during that time, met a lot of amazing people who helped build this community.
Pankaj was, for those of you who don't know, one of the people who did start Head Start back in the day. I think most of us know how much Head Start has done for the ecosystem, so kudos to that. I started my first company in India back in 2014, so I don't have as long a lens as Pankaj has seen, but I think a couple of things that have really changed is, yes, that time hiring as a founder was hard, right? You would have parents very wary about people coming to work for you. You would have potential in-laws of your employees wanting to come to the office and see, does this person work for a real company? Is there an office? Or what's happening? And these are actually examples from my own company and hiring journeys that I'm talking about. I think what's happened since then is it's become a lot more normalized across the masses of India for you to be, for your aspiration, wherever you come from, to be that you want to build a startup. You're working towards that in college, you're studying for that, you're starting to do an internship in startups, all of that, I think is very normalized. You now have most college graduates in fourth year actually working on startups. That was unheard of when I graduated completely, right? Like none of us were thinking of doing company when we were finishing college, which I think is the norm now, right? So I think that's changed. That's one. Two is, and what I love is the size of the ambition. Earlier, like 10 years back, most startups were thinking like, yeah, we'll go big. We'll go big in India. I think from now, people are like, yeah, we'll go big in the world. Especially if it's like more software internet businesses and not sort of physical real world infra and stuff. Then immediately the day one objective is global domination, as I like to sort of call it as a pension. So I think those two things I've seen change really a lot over the last decade or so.
I can also add that I think we're seeing aspirations extend beyond the planet. And, like I'm fortunate enough to have invested in some really brilliant young minds that are building actual rockets and, rocket science. And so, to me, that's also an example of how much the ecosystem has matured from a founder and investor perspective, where people are willing to invest in first-time founders who are saying, no, we're going to send rockets up into space, right? And, 5 years ago or 7 years ago, that would have been unthinkable, right? Today, you have hundreds of millions of dollars that are pouring into those industries, and founders are finding the resources to be able to build those types of companies. So I think aspirational is, out of this world now.
Yeah. Multiplanetary. Yeah, no, absolutely. For early stage founders, one of the biggest pieces of advice would be really think through the kind of investors you're getting on board, especially with all the proliferation of the Indian ecosystem we spoke about. Yes, there's a lot more founders and people building companies and wanting to build companies. And it is for the better on the whole that there's also a lot more people providing capital to founders. These could be individual syndicates, fund, micro funds, all sorts of permutations and combinations. I speak from experience, both myself, portfolio founders, close friends, that a lot of this can also basically destroy your company over time, because you have very unfriendly investors and stuff and terms and things. So I think one thing is really diligence and check out your investors, speak to other investors, speak to founders who might have taken their money, or just other people, what to look out for. So that's one of the pieces of advice I would give to early stage folks.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's one of the things that I see founders globally not put as much time and effort into as they should. A lot of investors spend a lot of time diligencing companies, but founders don't spend enough time diligencing potential investors. So my advice to founders in India is, before you even approach an investor, go talk to 5 founders that they've invested in, find out at least 2 founders that have failed, and try to understand how did that investor react and behave when the company was failing. That's going to give you a lot more information about what kind of investors they are, and do you really want them on board than anything else. So spend your time with other founders and diligence through other founders.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.